People did everything they were told to do. Go to school, work hard, stay out of trouble, yet somehow the reward feels smaller than it did for the generations before them. That's the strange part. The rules never changed. The advice never changed. But the results seem completely different. Millions of people wake up early every morning. They work long hours. They sacrifice time and energy. Still, many feel like they're barely moving forward. The middle-class dream once felt predictable. Not easy. Just predictable. You could almost see the path ahead. Today, that path feels blurry. The destination still exists. People just aren't sure how to reach it anymore. A paycheck arrives. Bills arrive faster. The money disappears. And the cycle begins again. Most people assume they're doing something wrong. They blame themselves. Work harder. Push harder. Yet the pressure remains. What if the problem isn't effort? What if effort was never the problem at all? What if something bigger changed underneath the surface? The middle-class dream was never about being rich. It was about stability, security, a life that felt manageable, a home, a reliable car, a family vacation once in a while, a retirement that didn't depend on luck. Nothing about those goals sounds unreasonable. That's what makes this story so confusing. They're ordinary goals, yet they feel increasingly difficult to reach. Housing costs rise, healthcare costs rise, education costs rise, and somehow every increase feels permanent. Most people notice the symptoms, very few notice the pattern, and patterns are often more important than events. Financial pressure rarely arrives all at once. It doesn't kick down the front door. It quietly slips through the cracks. One bill increases, then another, then another. Before long, the entire budget feels different. Nobody wakes up and decides to spend more money. Life simply becomes more expensive, and people adapt the best they can. That's the hidden danger. Humans adapt quickly, even when the adaptation is hurting them. A higher phone bill feels normal after a few months. A higher insurance payment feels normal too. The new cost becomes the new reality. The pressure grows quietly, almost invisibly, which makes it difficult to fight. Many families feel exhausted, not because they're failing, because they're constantly running against a stronger current. Years ago, one income often supported an entire household. Today, many households need two incomes. Even then, the pressure remains. That raises an uncomfortable question. If productivity increased and technology improved, why does life feel more expensive? Nobody talks about this enough. People have more conveniences than ever before, yet financial anxiety remains everywhere. The appearance of prosperity is easy to find. Real financial security is becoming much harder to locate. Social media rarely shows the struggle. It shows the vacation, the new car, the renovated kitchen, the bills stay off camera, the debt stays off camera, the stress stays off camera. This creates a dangerous illusion. Everyone appears to be doing better than they actually are. Comparison becomes automatic. People don't even realize they're doing it. The mind measures everything. A neighbor upgrades their home. A friend buys a new vehicle. Someone else takes another vacation. The standard quietly moves higher. And that's where the mystery begins. Not with economics, not with politics, with human psychology. David never considered himself ambitious. He wasn't chasing luxury. He simply wanted a stable life. He believed what many people believe. Work hard, stay responsible. Things will eventually work out. That belief started early, long before David earned his first paycheck, long before he understood how money actually worked. His parents believed it, his teachers believed it, most of the adults around him believed it too. The message was everywhere. Success comes to people who work harder than everyone else. For a long time, David never questioned that idea. Why would he? It sounded reasonable. It sounded true. As a teenager, the future felt simple. Graduate, get a good job, build a comfortable life. There was no master plan, no obsession with wealth, no dream of becoming rich. David wanted something much smaller, something millions of people want. He wanted security. The first steady paycheck felt incredible. For the first time in his life, he felt independent, like adulthood had finally arrived. Money represented freedom, choices, opportunity, possibility. Every paycheck felt like proof proof that he was moving forward, proof that the plan was working. At least that's how it felt in the beginning. The future looked bright, the path looked clear. David watched successful people carefully. He noticed their homes, their cars, their lifestyles. Without realizing it, he started building a picture of success in his mind, a picture that looked surprisingly similar to everyone else's. Success had an image, a certain neighborhood, a certain lifestyle, a certain appearance. Nobody explicitly taught him that. He absorbed it naturally, just by observing the world around him. The expectations felt normal, reasonable, almost invisible, which made them even more powerful. Every year brought a new goal, a new milestone, a new standard to reach. And despite working harder than ever, David slowly began noticing something he couldn't explain. The harder he pushed forward, the less secure he seemed to feel. At first, David ignored the feeling. Everyone seemed stressed. Everyone seemed busy. He assumed that was simply adulthood. The longer he worked, the more expensive life became. Every raise felt helpful, just never as helpful as he expected. More money entered his account, yet somehow there never seemed to be much left at the end of the month. That didn't make sense to him. He was earning more than before. So why didn't life feel easier? The question followed him everywhere. Driving home from work, paying bills, lying awake at night. David wasn't making reckless decisions, at least not intentionally. Most of his choices seemed reasonable. When his income increased, he upgraded a few things. Nothing extreme. Just things he felt he had earned. A slightly nicer apartment, a slightly newer vehicle, a few extra conveniences. Each decision felt small, almost insignificant. Certainly not life-changing, but small decisions become powerful when repeated over years. That's something David hadn't learned yet. His beliefs about money didn't come from spreadsheets. They came from stories. Stories he had heard his entire life. His parents worked hard, very hard, and they taught him that hard work solved almost everything. When money was tight, the answer was simple. Work more hours, pick up another shift. That lesson stayed with him, not because it was wrong, because it felt unquestionably true. School reinforced the same message: get good grades, find a stable career. Success will follow. Nobody spent much time explaining wealth. They explained income. Those are not the same thing. David didn't notice the difference. Most people don't, at least not early on. The culture around him reinforced everything. The bigger house looked successful. The newer car looked successful. Success wasn't described, it was displayed. Everywhere. Television showed it. Advertisements showed it. Social media amplified it. Day after day, the same message appeared. If your life looks successful, it probably is. That idea settled deep into David's mind. Quietly, without resistance. Friends influenced him too, not intentionally, just by living their lives. Someone bought a new truck. Someone renovated a kitchen. Someone upgraded their lifestyle. Those choices created invisible pressure, not spoken pressure. Observed pressure. Human beings compare naturally, even when they claim they don't. The brain keeps score. David wasn't jealous. He simply wanted reassurance that he was keeping up. That's what made the comparison feel harmless. It didn't feel like envy. It felt like motivation. But comparison changes expectations, and expectations change behavior. What once felt luxurious slowly became normal. Then expected, then necessary. A larger home stopped feeling extravagant. It started feeling appropriate. A newer vehicle stopped feeling like a reward. It started feeling like a requirement. That's how standards move. Not suddenly, gradually. David never sat down and created these standards. He inherited them from the world around him. The process was invisible, which made it powerful. Every advertisement carried a message. Not buy this product. Become this person. That distinction matters. Far more than most people realize. People rarely purchase objects alone. They're often purchasing identity. A nicer watch isn't always about time. Sometimes it's about status. A nicer car isn't always about transportation. Sometimes it's about validation. David didn't see it that way. Most people don't. He simply believed progress should look visible. Visible to himself. Visible to others. The problem was subtle. Every visible upgrade increased the cost of maintaining that image. Those costs didn't disappear. They became monthly obligations. Monthly obligations quietly become financial pressure, especially when they keep multiplying. David still believed he was moving forward, and in some ways he was. But another force was moving too: his expectations. The higher his expectations climbed, the harder satisfaction became to reach. Without realizing it, David was chasing a target that never stopped moving. And the farther that target moved away, the harder he worked to catch it, never questioning whether the chase itself was the problem.